Alright, so I'm calling it right now. The co-main event for UFC 313, Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje, is gonna be an absolute banger. Like, I'm talking about top 5 fight of the year material, no doubt about it in my mind. This is one of those matchups where you already know it's gonna be pure chaos, just carnage, and all out war in that cage. But here's the thing, people seem to be split on who's actually gonna win this, and honestly, I get it. It's kind of unpredictable. There are so many variables at play here, and it's not exactly an easy fight to break down. And look, man, I'm not much of a gambler, but if I were, I'd steer clear of putting money on this one. I'm just grabbing my popcorn, planting myself on the couch, and watching these two absolutely go at it. That said, today I want to break this fight down and talk about how close this thing really is and who might have the edge when the dust settles. So let's get into it. Alright, let's start with Justin Gaethje, and here's the thing about him. Justin has the most ugliest counter striking I've ever seen, but it's effective. He's not just walking forward, he's baiting you in to overcommit. The second you throw something lazy or predictable, he's already reading it and firing back with precision. Take his fight with Dustin Poirier in that rematch for an example. Even in a chaotic exchange, Gaethje was slipping shots and countering with hooks and uppercut that were timed perfectly. He's able to punish his opponents for getting too comfortable or trying to blitz him. His counter striking is a mix of patience and explosion. He waits for the smallest opening, then lands with a maximum impact, whether it's a hook to the head or a well-timed leg kick that disturbs your balance. And the leg kicks, those are a counter weapon too. He'll wait for you to plant your feet to throw a punch, and boom, he smashes your lead leg. It's not just damage, it's about breaking rhythm, forcing you to hesitate and creating openings for his other strikes. Now, as for Dan Hooker, he's a volume fighter, and he is so damn good with it. When you watch Hooker fight, it's not just about how much he throws, it's how he throws. The guy's output is relentless, and he mixes things up so well that it just keeps his opponents guessing. He's not the type to gas himself out throwing wild combinations. He's calculated, but he stays busy the entire fight. A lot of it comes down to his range management. Hooker is tall for that division, and he knows how to use his reach. He'll pump out that jab over and over, keeping you at the edge of his strikes. And when you try to close the distance, boom! Here comes the knees, here comes the elbows, or the long teeps to reset the pace. What makes his volume even better is that he doesn't just throw to land heavy shots all the time. He uses lighter strikes to set traps, create openings, and then bam, he lands the big one. I mean, you saw this in this fight with Paul Felder or even against Dustin Poirier. The guy stays active. He doesn't let you breathe, and then he sneaks in something nasty when you least expect it. Now, both of these fighters have different advantages over each other. Like, Justin arguably has the power and advantage in this fight. Like, it's not, oh, he just hits hard. It's like he touches you, you might wake up in the hospital. And I'm aware that Hooker's got a chin, no doubt about it, but we've seen it get tested. We've seen Muscle Mike finish him in the first round. We've seen Arnold Allen finish him in the first round. Another factor that does get me nervous is Justin's leg kicks, okay? Because Dan isn't good in defending them. And if you look at some of his past fights, guys like Dustin Poirier and Edson Barboza had success at chopping at his legs. The thing with Hooker is that he's so focused on his offense, staying long, pumping that jab, and keeping the volume up, that sometimes he doesn't prioritize defending those leg kicks. He's not always quick to lift that lead leg or adjust his stance to take the sting out of them. And against someone like Justin Gaethje, that's dangerous. Gaethje's leg kicks aren't just meant to score points, they're fight-altering weapons. If Hooker doesn't check those kicks early, it's gonna add up fast. The problem is checking leg kicks requires split-second timing and balance, and when you're dealing with Gaethje's pressure and power, it's hard to stay composed and focus on that. Now, to be fair, Hooker's toughness has let him absorb those kicks and keep fighting, but that's a dangerous game to play, especially against someone like Justin, who will be happily to chop your legs down until you can't move. Now, to be fair, it won't be a one-sided fight because Dan Hooker also has some advantages over Justin in this fight. I mean, Hooker's length is massive. It's a massive weapon. He's got that tall frame for the division, and he knows how to use it. His jab, teep kick, and long straights are all about keeping his opponents at a distance. If he can establish that range early, Gaethje's gonna have to work a lot harder to close the gap. Justin loves to fight in close, but if Hooker can control the distance, he can frustrate him and make him swing and hit air. Hooker is a volume striker, plain and simple. He just doesn't throw big bombs. He peppers you with jabs, straights, and kicks consistently, staying busy. That kind of output can rack up some points and wear down someone like Gaethje, who thrives more on power shots. If Hooker can stay disciplined and stick to his high volume game plan, he could outwork Justin over the course of the fight. But here's the thing. Hooker has to oppose his will early, just like he did in that Dustin Poirier fight. Hooker came out firing in all cylinders. His output was insane in the early rounds, and he didn't let Dustin settle into his rhythm. He was consistently throwing combinations, mixing up punches, leg kicks, and knees, which kept Dustin on the defensive. Hooker's volume wasn't just about scoring points, it was about overwhelming Poirier and not giving him time to counter or to adjust. Hooker's reach and height played a big role to his success early on. He was really good at keeping Dustin at the end of his punches, using that jab and straight shot to score from the outside. Every time Dustin tried to close the distance, Hooker either stepped back and reset it or threw something long to keep him back. I also believe Hooker will find a lot of success in the clinch as well, because honestly, the way that Charles handled Justin up close is something that Hooker could definitely look to replicate. Now, Hooker's got a few weapons that could really work here. His knees are deadly, some of the best in the game, honestly. And look, man, if you look back at that Ross Pearson fight, it's a perfect example of how Hooker can time those knees when someone comes charging forward recklessly. Exactly the kind of stuff that Gaethje likes to do, because as calm as he seems nowadays, he does sometimes throw caution out of the window. And don't forget his elbows. If Justin tries to hang out in the clinch or get too close, Hooker could always absolutely sneak in an elbow over the top. But if Hooker can time those knees and elbows, stay active in the clinch, and really make Justin pay for closing the distance, he could have some real success there. It's not going to be easy. Gaethje is no slouch, and he's probably learned from that Charles fight, but if Hooker plays it smart, the clinch can absolutely be a big factor for him. Another thing that can play into Hooker's favor is his guillotine chokes. People forget he's called the Hangman for a reason. This guy used to lock those in like no one's business. And let's be real, Justin might have solid takedown defense, but on the ground, he's basically a white belt. If Hooker manages to drop Justin or just catch him slipping during the scramble, there's a real chance he can go for a guillotine. It's a weapon Hooker hasn't used much lately, but if the opportunity shows, you know he's going to jump on it. Alright, so I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of leaning towards Justin Gaethje to win this one, but man, it's tough to call. I feel like it's going to go all 5 rounds, and it's going to be a bloody war. One of those fights where both guys are just leaving it all out there. But here's the thing, is Justin going to be the same fighter? That's the big question. I mean, we've got to talk about how bad his knockout was against Max. He got wrecked in that fight, and he hasn't fought in almost a year. You've got to wonder if his chin is still there. If it's not there, there's a real chance that Hooker can catch him and finish the fight early. Then there's Hooker, and with him, it's all about consistency. Can he actually show up and stay sharp the whole fight? Because we've seen him choke before. The Chandler fight is a perfect example. He just didn't deliver when it mattered, and Gaethje's the kind of guy who will make you pay for that. Honestly, this fight can go either way. One minute you think Justin's pressure and power are too much, and then the next you're thinking Hooker's range and volume might pick him apart. It's just one of those fights where you just keep switching sides, and that's what makes it so interesting. I can't wait to see how this fight plays out.